This video was technically going to be week 2 for the sew along that was taking place in Jen's Fabrics on Facebook. However, no one participated in week 1 and I felt like it just wasn't going to be worth anyone's time to continue on like that, so I thought I'll just switch and make a full tutorial for the Diana and Elizabeth pattern from Stitches by Christy. I'm not going to go over the pattern pieces. I do have that already posted, so I'll put a link in my description that explains all the materials I'm using and how to prep and kind of get those ready. So where I'm going to pick up is the first step. So I haven't sewn anything yet. The other video was just showing the pieces and talking about interfacing. So for the first step for sewing, we're going to be making the top, which is kind of like the closure for the pouch. So I'm making 3 of these. I have my sets of the tops for all 3. All 3 of these will be sewn the same way. The only thing that's different is that 2 of them have magnets already on them, and then this one doesn't. The jelly will not have any prong magnetic snaps attached because we would see them from the other side. So I'm going to use riveted snaps on this one, but for this one I have 2 female and 2 male snaps on both of these. This will be how that pouch closes at the top. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to sew these right sides together and end up with 2 top pieces for each of my pouches. If you have your snaps attached, go ahead and take 1 piece with snaps, 1 piece without snaps, place them right sides together and just sew all along the top. You're going to leave that bottom completely open so we can flip this right sides out. You will do the same thing for the other 2 pieces. And for me, I will do all the same for the other pouches I'm making. If you're only making 1 pouch, you will only have 4 top panels, and that will make 2 of your top pieces sewn together. Here is that top piece sewn right sides together. I have a pair of pinking shears. These are actually Kai pinking shears, which is my favorite company for making scissors, but I hate these pinking shears. They are very hard to use, I think. They're very stiff. If you have a suggestion for good pinking shears, I would love to know what you prefer to use. Now that we have that little bit cut off to kind of help reduce bulk, we simply flip this so that the right sides are out. Take the time to press your seams. If you have one of the seam rollers, this is a good place to use them. If your vinyl is very stiff, you could even put clips on it for a little while to kind of help press, but I'm just going to finger press. And then I'm going to top stitch all along this sewn edge, and I will base all along the open edge at the bottom. Here's how my top piece looks. I'm going to do those same steps for the other side. Just to make note, this will be the interior side of the top handle. I have all of these top pieces done. My next step is going to be taking these top pieces and attaching it to the main panel. This is not what the pattern suggests. She suggests you add the base, sew up the sides, and then add that top piece. You can definitely do it that way, follow the pattern directions. You can do it my way, whichever just works best in your sewing room. It's not a problem. So what I will do is I need to place this top piece right sides together. The right side, if you have these snaps on it that are prong snaps, not the riveted ones, the right side is the side that you do not see the snaps on. What you will do is you'll find the center of both this top piece and your panel piece. You'll place these right sides together, matching up those centers, and then I'm just going to base this in place. I'm not worried about doing a full seam allowance here because whenever I add the lining, I will sew the full seam allowance then, sewing it all together at the top, and then whenever we go to top stitch, I'll flip it up then. So this is just a basting stitch. If you are choosing to add your top pieces on like I did before you sew up the sides, make sure you check them now to make sure they fit evenly and there's no need to change anything before we go on with the rest of the pattern. Now we're going to add this base piece. What we do is we have center marks, or if you don't, go ahead and make center marks on the base piece and on the bottom of each of these panels. Then you just take the base piece, place it right sides together. You're going to match up those center marks and then just sew from one side of the base to the other. Once you have the base sewn on, you are going to flip it over. Your seam allowance will stay where it is. You're not moving it, and the base will just flip on top of it. And that way we can sew on this base piece to top stitch it and to attach it to the seam. When I top stitch, I do 1/8 of an inch away from the folded edge or the edge we just sewed, and I will make sure that I back stitch when I start and stop. This is how the base piece should look. What you're going to do now is you're going to repeat those same steps for your other main panel to attach it to the other side of the base. Go ahead and top stitch it as well, and that will have the exterior ready to be sewn together at the sides. Now that I have the base attached, I'm simply going to fold this right sides together to sew down both sides. Go ahead and snap your magnets, and that'll help it if you already have them attached. If not, just clip in place. And then what you'll do is you'll start sewing here at the top, back stitch, and then go all the way down to the bottom. We will do that same step on both sides. Once you have the sides sewn, now it's time to box the corners. If you want, you can make a mark here in the middle. I typically just will add a clip here to note where that center is. Then I will open this up. I choose to butterfly the seams here on the sides just so I can kind of distribute that bulk a little bit better. And then I fold these together so I can match up that center. I open everything up to press it nice and flat. And I'm really careful to make sure I get this row of stitching on the base inside this square. What I mean is if you go in here and feel this with your finger, you can feel where that raw edge of the base is. I've had times whenever I've sewed this and I've not sewn it far enough along, and then I can see just a hint of that raw edge peeking through. It doesn't hurt anything. It's just not what I like. So now I just make sure I know, and you can see your stitches, and just make sure you at least go over those stitches, if not go a little past them on both sides. So I'll just sew straight across here, back stitching when I start and stop. And I'm just going to kind of feel to make sure I got everything caught. That one's perfect. I'll trim down the extra, and then I'll do the same thing on the other side, and that will have my exterior completely done. Now, if you are doing the clear vinyl version, the Elizabeth, you're through. You just simply turn it right sides out, and there you have the pouch. On this one, I did use jelly. So I didn't even do the binding. The pattern says you can do binding, but that's more if you have like a vinyl here and you don't want to show those edges, but I don't care to show it on the jelly. It looks just fine. If I wanted to remove my basting stitch, I could even do that, but I'll leave it in place for just a little extra integrity. And since I use a variegated thread, it's kind of a decorative stitch. On the clear vinyl, I use cam snaps to make it really easy and super cost efficient. So this is how the clear vinyl pouch looks. It'll be perfect for makeup bags, for travel bags, anything like that. But kids love this to store things in, to sit in their shelf, or just to have on their dresser, or to even carry things in the car with them. So the clear version is done if you're doing that one. That's the last step you need to do. But for the Diana version, we're actually going to do the inside. You get to choose. I'm going to follow the pattern directions for the inside and actually make pockets, a zipper pocket, and a slip pocket. It's time to start working on those lining pieces. Now, if you want to leave your lining just plain and just have a lining with no pockets or anything, make sure that you choose to cut out the lining piece, because we don't have the base piece on here for the lining. So the lining has the base measurements kind of included in it, so it is a bigger piece. We will just cut out the corners later to box them. For those of us that want to add the zipper, the pattern gives us a zipper overlay. You simply place it according to the pattern measurements, have it centered, and measure down from the top. And then you can place it on there, and you are going to sew all the way around the exterior of this zipper overlay. I'm going to just sew 1/8 of an inch all the way around the perimeter of this overlay piece. Once you have your zipper overlay sewn on, you can just cut out the excess that is inside. So we are not going to be cutting through the stitches or the overlay, but we're just going to remove all this extra fabric. We will cut the fabric about 1/4 of an inch away from that stitch line. And when you're cutting it from the wrong side, make sure you are in between the fabric and the overlay cutting. You would not want to risk cutting any of that overlay. So that box should be very visible. You don't have to cut as much as I do. If you wanted, you could just cut a little bit away from that opening, but I just go ahead and cut it all out of the way. Then what I do is I pull out my 2 zipper pocket lining pieces. I do not put the zipper pull on yet. The first thing I do is I have that lining piece right sides up. Let me flip it this way. I think this way looks better. And then I just place my zipper tape on top of it, matching up that top edge right sides up as well. I start by sewing this with the seam allowance given in the pattern. And after I have it attached there, then I just flip it back. And this step is unnecessary, but I find it makes it so much easier to attach it if I have this part tacked down, the seam tacked down. This is what it looks like now. Go ahead and pull out that other piece and do the same thing. This time though, we got to make sure we match up the sides. Or at least I do, because I have my zipper tape longer than it needs to be. And I once again have the lining piece right sides up. Let me just show you. The lining piece is right sides up. The zipper tape is right sides up, laying on top of it. So with that seam allowance given in the pattern. Once you have that first stitch done, go ahead and open it up so that you can tack down that seam. And I just do this stitch at 1/8 of an inch. And this is what it looks like from the front, the right side of the zipper. This is what it looks like from the wrong side of the zipper. Now I need to add the zipper pull. After I add my zipper pull, I'm going to lay this down, the template down exactly on top. Center those teeth in the middle. Make sure you have an even amount hanging on both sides, the lining and the zipper tape for me. And then you're just going to stitch around the perimeter of this box with the 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to go add my zipper pull and then I will stitch on camera. This is how the zipper looks from the front. I flip it over. Here's how it looks from the back. I'm simply going to fold this piece down. And you don't have to do these next steps, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to go ahead and trim the bottom off, but I'm going to fold this back. And I'm just going to fold it back maybe 1/2 of an inch. And I use a glue stick and just to kind of glue it in place. You can do whatever you want or just skip this. But we are leaving this bottom unsewn. We are just going to sew down the sides. This is going to be how we turn this pouch. Now if you choose not to add a zipper, that's fine. You don't have to. You could leave an opening in the bottom of your lining. But for those of us that are adding the zipper, we are going to sew down the sides, leaving the bottom open. So I'm going to trim this off and then glue the bottoms up a folded edge, so whenever I do turn it, it'll be easier to sew across there. Whenever I'm sewing the sides, I'm going to be looking at the right side of the lining. I'm just going to flip it back, and for me, I sew as close as I can to the zipper opening box. And so I'm going to get right up against where I previously stitched and then just go all the way straight down, sewing over those edges that I just folded back. Back stitching really well at the bottom. I do the same thing on this other side, and then I will trim up the zipper tape and the pocket lining, and then that will be it for this side of the lining. To complete the other side of the lining, you should have 4 pieces. The really long big piece is going to be a slip pocket. I'll be honest with you, I didn't really even look at the pattern. I vaguely remember from testing how this goes, so I'm just going to sew it the way I think I remember how it goes, but I could be wrong. So the very long piece, your slip pocket, fold it right sides together and then just sew with the seam allowance down that seam to close it up. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to finger press this open. Of course, you could take it to the iron. And I'm pretty sure that she lets this be kind of like, I'll show you when you turn it out. I think she has it with kind of like that seam there in the middle, kind of like that. But I'm just going to hide that seam, and I'm going to figure out, yeah, I want it this way. So I'm hiding my seam on the inside so you won't be able to see it, and then I'm just going to top stitch across the top edge, or what I'm calling my top edge now. Then I'm going to take out this center piece, place that pocket on top of it. If you want to take this pocket over to the iron and press it flat, you can. I'm just going to kind of place it on there and add some clips. I'm not sewing this at all. You could go ahead and baste across the sides if you want to. I'm not too worried about it. I'm just going to go ahead and take my lining piece and place it right sides together. Take the other lining piece and place it right sides together on the other side. And now you're going to sew both of these sides in place with that seam allowance given. What you do now is you open up your side pieces, and I'm going to sew on the side piece. So my seam is staying where it is, and I'm just flipping the side piece over so that it is on top of it. So I'll top stitch down this side piece all the way down, connecting the side piece and the seam, and then I'll go ahead and baste these closed here at the bottom, and then come back up the other side to top stitch the same way. Both of your linings are now done. You can put them on top of each other to make sure they're the same size. They should be pretty close. Trim up anything you need to. The pattern tells us we need to cut out the box corners. You can use the measurement in the pattern to cut out the box corners on both sides of this lining piece and both sides of the other lining piece. Then you're going to sew the sides of the lining together just like you did for the exterior and box those corners. The lining will look the same as the exterior once you have it boxed and sewn together. I'm going to do those steps off camera, and then I'll come back and show you how we finish the bag by sewing the lining and exterior right sides together. I have my exterior and my lining complete. I forgot to mention, but you do have to sew the bottom of the lining. That is a step that's different than on the exterior because we had the bottom piece. So make for sure you do that. There is pictures in the pattern if it's confusing at all. But I have my exterior wrong sides out and my lining right sides out. This is the way I'm going to sew it. I just feel like it'll be a little bit easier for me. I have the zipper pocket open on the lining, and that is the way I'll turn this. And so then I'll just start by matching up the seams. I will butterfly this seam instead of nesting, just so it'll kind of distribute that bulk a little bit better. And then I'll clip all the way around the top, and then I will sew all around the perimeter of this bag with the seam allowance given in the pattern. Your flaps will be staying down also, just as a note, they'll be tucked in there. We haven't top stitched on them or anything, so they should lay down nicely. Once you have everything sewn together, just go ahead and berth the bag through the opening in the lining, and then we're going to close that lining pocket and top stitch all the way around. Since I have these edges folded down, I'll just clip them together. It makes it a little bit easier. Then I'll top stitch across this pocket lining just to close it up. If you're uncomfortable, you can wait until after you top stitch the main part of the bag to do this, but I feel fairly comfortable that it'll look okay if I just go ahead and do it now. So I'm going to go ahead and get this pocket closed. Go ahead and tuck your pocket back in there. I like to top stitch on the exterior, so I'm going to flip this entire bag wrong sides out. I want to top stitch with the top parts with the magnets up. So I'm going to have them facing up, and then I'll top stitch underneath them. You want to make sure you keep just a nice tug on that so that everything lays nicely, and then just top stitch 1/8 of an inch away all the way around. Now that I have the top stitching done, I'm just going to turn the bag right sides out. I put my hands in there and really just kind of stretch and pull. Look at that beautiful opening. Now this is for me best as a pouch. I love to sell these at craft shows, give these at gifts. Kids love them, and it's such a cute little way to carry, and kids can open and close it really easily, even young kids that maybe can't manage a zipper very well. So let me change my camera angle and we'll look at all three of these. This is the version I sewed up today. This is a cotton canvas. I used a panel for the front and a coordinating print for the back. This is the one that I did show you the opening. You could leave this empty if you wanted. For a kid, it might be smart to just leave it empty or just have slip pockets instead of zipper pockets. Here is the clear vinyl version. This is a super cute, fun one for kids. They always love to be able to see their stuff inside, and clear vinyl comes in so many prints. This is from Jen's Fabric as well. It is a TPU, so it's a very soft vinyl, not too hard to turn or anything like that. And my last one is just using a solid print. This print is also from Jen's Fabrics, and you can see it's another one that's just open and just very nice inside. Super cute. The clear version of this is the Elizabeth. The non-clear is the Diana. Both of these are from Stitches by Christy. It's just such a great fun pattern. Thanks so much for watching another one of my videos. The fabrics are from Jen's Fabrics. I will have the link in my description as well as my rep code so that you can save 10% off your total order. Pattern is from Stitches by Christy. I'll have that link in my description too. Thanks so much for watching another one of my tutorials, and I hope today that you can sew something fun, quick, and easy that can help make gift giving a little bit easier in your life, and I hope you have an amazing day.